Hey everybody, it's Jim at Smokin' Fire, and today we've got classic pork butt, Oklahoma style. We've got grilled carrots and grilled corn. It's gonna be a feast. We even cut some off for the kids with their teeth gone.
It's time for Xtreme BBQ, presented by Smokin' Fire, where you can find everything you need to master the grill. Think family, think friends, think Smokin' Fire.
Yes, it's that time for Xtreme BBQ on Sports Radio 810, and this is video stuff. It's really cool. We've got Jim Cattey from Smokin' Fire down there at 151st and 69 Highway, Xtreme BBQ. They are responsibly open for business. We'll talk about some of the specials they have going on down there, but what's special right now is it's National Barbecue Month, and we're cooking. And Jim, I know we're going to have pulled pork, and that's like the main dish for me. But we're going to have some vegetables too, so let's kick it off with these vegetables. Tell me about some baby carrots we're going to have going.
Baby carrots are super easy to cook. On all your veg when you're grilling, you want to do a par cook. And we can either go to the microwave and do that, or you can parboil them. It's just personal preference of how you want to go there. So it's not a hard thing, but what you want is a veg that's not quite tender yet. You want it al dente. That way when you go to the grill and you do a fast sear, you've got that finish. So what we're going to do, I've got my par cooked carrots here, and we're using a resealable bag. We're going to add our finished herb blend, and what we're using today is the dilly dip mix. It's a great dill seasoning, and it's just something you can do it as a dip. What we've done is I've fluffed everything, taken a fork and mixed it up so everything's even. We add that per the recipe, and we put with it the smoked oil, which is a hickory thyme oil. And those flavors just marry together. You put them in the microwave, and for only about 30 seconds, just till it's kind of bubbly and good. And what you're doing is you're hydrating everything, so it releases those flavors. And now we're going to just simply take some of that seasoning blend and pour in on top of our carrots. And you want to reserve just a little bit of it. When we're done cooking, right after you plate it, we're going to add just a little bit more of that on top of our bowl or plated food. And what that gives us then is something that's just super easy. So now all I'm doing is just tossing it. That gives me a nice coating and everything is on there. The veg is actually one of the last things we'll cook. So we're going to get this prepped. We're going to set it aside in the fridge. And then once we get back to it, we're going to come back and we'll grill those. We'll show that, and then we'll pull the final product.
And on the flavor on that, dill is a flavor that some people get scared of, I think. I think it's going to be too much for them.
Right.
But dill is really a good flavor you can put on a lot of different things.
You can, and carrots and dill go well together. This is just a really tasty product. Good to do. It's an easy one too.
Now, chili lime is something that a lot of people are doing now. I think that's one of the kind of the hot flavors the last several years. How are we going to get this corn ready to go?
Corn's pretty easy, and when you buy your corn, you can buy where the grocer is kind of pre-cut, if you will. You've got a little bit of husk, a little bit of silk, or my old school is I would buy a whole wrap and I would just peel back the end. And what we want to see, Ben, if you'll kind of do a close-up here, is on the corn, we want to get a nice little nubbin. You don't want big grain kernel corn, looks like we're going to have cattle feed going for it. We want these little tender pieces. And my trick was always just you peel it back a little bit, kind of like this, look at the end and go, yep, that's a good ear, and pick it and go. But what you want to do is peel that back and husk it off. We'll throw that away. And then what I like to do is under running water, you've got all these silks here on the end. I'll grab what I can grab and peel that off. But once I've got everything de-silked that I can grab, then I'm going to use a soft bristled corn brush. And what the corn brush does is it just gets down into the grooves. And so under running water, I'm going to take and brush that down, and I'm just cleaning it, and I'm getting all the silk off. And when I'm done, I've got an ear of corn that looks like this. So it's nice and clean. There are no silks. When I go to eat it, I'm not getting anything stuck in my teeth. Just super easy to get them prepped. Then when you're ready to grill them, same story, you're going to par cook it. You can do the microwave, you can do the boil. And if I take my thumb and I try and break a kernel, it's hard. When it's starting to get tender, that kernel will pop just a little bit. That's how you can kind of test it to make sure you're done. With the corn par cook, what you're then going to do is you can either use a grilling basket And you can open this basket up and place your different corn ears in place, and then that basket just locks back down. So now you can flip it and turn it. So quick spritz of oil. We're going to put in our chili lime. I'm going to do that. And then you're going to grill it. And same story, we'll show that grilling process here in a little bit. The key to it though is you want to get just a nice black char on the tips. The oiling process, I like to use a bowl. The grapeseed oil has a light buttery flavor, so it's great to go with corn. And what I'm doing is I'm doing a quick spritz, and I'm putting that oil on that corn so that when I put my chili lime on it, everything's going to stick and adhere. Chili lime's got a flip top, and we're just sitting there and getting a good dust. And we want a pretty good coat of this on here. Don't want it too light. It's going to grill, and that flavor is going to marry up right.
Yeah, and I think we talk a lot about grapeseed oil, and people maybe see it on the shelf somewhere. Putting it in the spritzer is the best and easiest way to use it because you don't want too much of it. You just need a little bit to keep those spices on there, right?
That's correct, just a light coat. And what the oil's doing is it's holding the spice. It also keeps the food from sticking when we go to a high heat grill. So with this, we'll go over to the grill here in just a second. Right now, we're going to prep and talk about our pork butt. I'm going to do a quick wash here and sanitize.
Yeah, pork butt is something. It's obviously Midwestern. I mean, we pull pork. We love that stuff here. That's kind of what we're about. There are a bunch of different ways to do this. There's slow cooking it, trying to get it done faster. You like to do it the long, slow way. You think that's the best way to get the flavors to go all the way through, right? Some people try to rush these things, and maybe they shouldn't.
There's a couple of paths, and it depends on your cooker. So the answer to your question is more to the equipment that you're using. Today we're cooking on the Xtreme, and the Xtreme smoker allows us to use heat to our advantage. So on that, I'll actually turn it up towards the end. So I kind of have a low and slow phase that I start with. For smoking, I'll take it up to what I call bark phase, and that's around 250 degrees. And then I'll take it on up to a 300, 350 to a finish phase, and that really gets a beautiful bark on there. So we'll show that in just a little bit. What I'm going to grab right now, walk over here to the fridge and get our pork butt out.
Yeah, we always love the pork butt, the barbecue. We're using all parts of everything to kind of get this baby going. And you know, as you mentioned, the equipment's obviously a big part of it. In preparation, that's where we get our flavor. You know, you got to get this flavor in here early, and when you're cooking for a long time, you can cook those flavors all the way through.
Absolutely, and it makes all the difference in the world. So our pork butt, this is pretty well trimmed. In an Xtreme or in a lot of the pellet cookers, they're actually kind of a hydrating cooker. They don't dehydrate. So you've got a cooker that, the old rule of thumb, we want this thick fat cap up on top, and as it cooks, that's all percolating down. Well, I want a little bit of fat, but when I get too much, when I start, I'm going to trim that off. So I'm going to go under here and kind of loosen up that lid, and you can see I'm just at the meat line. And so we're basically just going to go up here. This is a very, very sharp boning knife. Makes for an easy, clean sweep where I'm taking that extra fat off. And I'm just following the curve and taking down all that extra fat that if I don't take it off, all it does in a good cooker is render out and make a mess. And I don't like cleaning up anything more than I have to. So that's why we're getting rid of all this excess fat.
There can be some flavor in there, but it's not worth the mess when you're cooking for this long, right?
Correct, and we're leaving what I call barding strips. So I've still got fat on here. I'm just taking the excess off so that it's not creating that mess for me. And so I'm still gonna get that flavor profile. It's just I don't need to have a big fight of cleanup when I'm done.
And you guys have, I don't know, dozens of different flavors you can put on pork butt. What are the flavors we're going to use and the spices we're going to use today?
Today we're using Butcher's product. They're out of Oklahoma. And Butcher's is a very popular rub and seasoning blend. They're basically primarily dry, but what they've also got and what we're using today is their pork injection. And so we're going to inject that in. We're going to take our pork injector here. And we have different injectors here along the front that you can pick up. The heavier the tool, the better the tool. And so if you want to play, you don't know that you're really going to do this, then you can start with a plastic one or a lighter. There are some sort of medium grade ones, or you can step up to a stainless steel one. The unit that I'm using is what my granddad would have called the Morton meat pump. It's the original. It's got 12 holes. And what I'm doing is I'm just laying it over at an angle so that my needle is in the liquid. And I need to get a little more of an angle. There we go. And then I'm simply pulling that in and loading that. And so now we've picked up a charge. And so with a pork butt, you have your bone in here where you've got bone on that side and bone goes through. So there are different pockets of meat. So what you're doing is going in until you've got a good full line, and then you're just simply injecting that in. Come back out, you're going finding over here, that's bone. There we got down into a good batch of meat, and we're going to inject more. And you're going in from different angles. So what you're doing is creating different pockets inside of that muscle. You can feel it and see it swell. The whole idea of the injection process is you're just simply adding flavor from the inside out. So now we've loaded that. We're going to get another load here.
And you have to, I mean, how much is too much on that? I guess it's trial and error if you find out if you've got a little too much in there.
This bottle will basically do 2 pork butts. So we did the first half for the one that we've got cooked already, and then we're showing you how to use this half. You also want to use just a little bit and just a little bit. And what we're doing with that is we're going to coat the outside of the meat. And that coating is going to hold our rub, kind of like when we're grilling with grapeseed oil. When we're smoking, we don't want to use an oil because that oil is going to stop the smoke. So this is a water-based product. So we're just kind of taking that excess that's there. And if you need some, you can pour a little bit more on top. You also will baste with this towards the end of the cook. And so that helps build the bark up. So it's kind of a 3-step process with the injectable. We'll flip that over and then do a little coat here on the other side. Some I've got down here. So now we've got our coating all over our pork butt. I'm going to clean sanitation again over here.
And when you're going to end up putting rub on this, does the bark, when we get something that's really done up nice like a pork butt or a brisket or burn ends or whatever, does the bark come from the amount of rub you put on, or is it from the actual cooking the meat long enough to get that bark just right?
Too much rub isn't good. You want a good coat, but yes, the bark comes from the rub, comes from the cook process, and then we're also going to come back and we're going to be basting with that. And so while we're basting, we're helping to build that bark right in the thickness. So this is our butcher's private seasoning. We're just going to do a nice full coat. So we want a lot of color. We don't want it over thick, but we want a full layer. And we're going to do this to all 4 sides.
Yeah, sometimes we're getting food ready. My wife will put, rub on one side. I'm like, that's not it. You got to go all over.
Got ends, got sides, got top. Yep, all the surfaces.
We got a cube. We might call this 6 sides. Hit those ends, all the ends. Hit everything on this thing, right?
Absolutely. We
Big
want
cube
it
of
everywhere.
pork. How much did you say this pork butt weighed?
This one was 9 1/3, roughly.
Okay.
And most pork butts today are pretty uniform with the way the plants process them. So you're going to find a modern pork butt's in that 9-10 pound range.
Okay.
So this is, back to your question, this is a good coating. You can kind of go along, tap it in, add a little bit more. But basically we just want a good full color all over our pork butt. So at this phase, pork butt's ready. What I like to do is wrap it in saran wrap and then put that back in the refrigerator for about 2 to 4 hours. And what we're doing in that 2 to 4 hours is the rub is hydrating, it's marrying into the meat, and we're getting that flavor pull coming across. So we've actually got a really, really good flavor profile that's there. Then we're going to take our smoker, we're going to fire it up to about a 210 is where I kind of like to smoke. And we're going to put in our wood. Right now I'm set up for grilling. I've got kind of a medium fire, But we've got a full load of charcoal. It's hot. Classic test, 1001, 1002. You kind of rip your hand back. We can see it's hot because of the white ash that's there. And here is our finished pork butt. Get this guy out of the way. And so when I was a kid, my mom had bear paws, and they are still one of the handiest tools ever conceived. And so a bear paw, you can actually go in and pick up the meat. So it allows you to move it without a mess. Bare hands, I don't have to get gloves. And we talked about the bone. When I get in here and I kind of hold with the bear paws, that bone will just literally flip out. That is the sign of a perfectly cooked pork butt. There's almost nothing left on that bone. What little bit there is, we're going to peel off. And that will all go in.
The bear paws are just the absolute best. They make everything so much easier, cleaner on your hands and everything. They're awesome.
They are the deal. And the next step with pork butt is we are going to chop it. And what I like to do, we'll take our set of paws, and we're just going to hold it. And I'm going cross grain. You can kind of read the grain as you look at it. If you get into where you're cutting with the meat, you want to just turn and rotate, and so stop and go back to cross grain. But by chopping that meat, what you end up with are pieces that are shreddable. And we want that bark. That's where our flavor is.
Exactly. So how long did this one smoke?
We smoked it for probably 2 hours with the hickory. Had a really good color on it. It was starting to, the bark was setting. It wasn't quite done. But the whole key to smoke is you smoke up until you hit 120 degrees internal temperature. If you smoke beyond that, you're over smoking. You're just coating creosote on the outside, and that doesn't do us any good.
So it smoked for a couple hours, and how long was the total cook time after you just kept cooking and took the smoke off?
Again, a pork butt, depending on the heat that you cook at, is going to be somewhere between a 6, 7, up to maybe a 10-hour cook. And that's back to a function of temperature. So everybody gets caught up on time. Time's a wonderful thing, but you aren't done till you get that meat up where it's tender. And that's 195 to about 210 degrees meat temperature. When you slide your probe in and it literally just falls into that meat, that's when you know you're done. Again, wiggle the bone, second indicator, that's where it's time to pull that pork butt. We do our chop and we're ready. What I have sitting over here are some that we've already panned, and this is ready to be pulled. We had pulled that chop process earlier. And so by putting it in a pan, it allows me to come back and hold it a little bit better. And what I like to do, and we can do it here on the board, we can do it in here, but I'll take 2 of my bear paws and I'll go through, and basically I'm hitting in between. It's kind of like an old hay baler, and we're just shredding and we're separating that pork out. The other path, some people like to do it chopped, and we've done that in the past on different years, where the pork, instead of being shredded, is more of a chopped pork. There's nothing wrong either way. It's just you're doing what you like and the texture that you prefer. I'm getting into those little dark pieces, the bark, and just getting those shredded up nice. That way there's a little bark for everybody. My family
I'm
showed.
going to take all the bark.
Understood. You and my family all together. They head straight for the bark. So
fighting for the bark.
Yeah, no fighting. It's just get out of the way. So what we've got is a nice shredded batch of meat. I had reserved, I mentioned that we cooked with the pan to hold and to reserve some of my au jus. I'm going to do about a 1-to-1 ratio here of my au jus that I reserved with the head country. This is their hickory smoke. Just a little bit sweeter than, say, a Gates barbecue sauce, but not like sweet like a Blues Hog. So kind of a nice combination. Got that hickory flavor. And I'm just going to whisk all that together so that we've got a good even slurry. And it doesn't take a lot of this, but now we're just going to drizzle that over the top of our pulled pork. Drizzling slow, not pouring. And what we're doing is moistening. We don't want it wet, but we want a nice moist piece of pork there. And so that's going to give us a crazy good flavor. And what we now have inside is pork ready to serve.
That's a great finishing touch for that. You know, that's what the flavor is all about. All the little details, the preparation, the spices you choose, and finishing up just right. You can't get in a hurry when you want to make it tasty.
You can, but it'll bite you, and we don't like to get bitten. So what I'm doing right now is pulling our side dishes that we had already pre-cooked and grabbing my tong here. And we're going to finish at tableside our corn with Butter Boy.
Oh, the Butter Boy is the best tool you guys have out there, maybe.
Butter Boy is back, and what it is a tube where we can place our butter. We push that up so it's there, and that lets us just slide that butter right on top of that corn. And we're going to get a nice full coat of butter there. And then we're going to do what we always do, gilding the lily. We're going to add just a little bit more of that chili lime. And you can see how those,
top, right?
Yeah, those kernels are moving happy. I'm from that old school of you pick it up and you've got corn from ear to ear. Over here we have corn grips for people that like to be a little bit neater. Butter Boy you can see. We've also got a corn platter. It was very traditional at my house that the corn was served first. It was basically an appetizer. And so we would eat corn until we were done, and then we would have whatever meal it was, dinner for lunch, supper for dinner, depending upon what meal, but that was traditional. Also, kids sometimes don't like the ears. This is a corn shaver. So you hold the corn, you work it in, and it just simply cuts all those kernels off. And now, if somebody doesn't have front teeth, or if you've got a person that just doesn't like getting messy, they've got their grilled corn right there ready to go.
We're making it too easy for everybody now, Jim. I don't know about this.
Yeah,
that stuff all looks great, and we're not doing samples yet down at Smoke and Fire, but you guys are open for business. Chef will be there tomorrow on Saturday to kind of answer questions and talk about these things. All these recipes available at the store, and go by and check these things out, because I'm telling you guys, you're going to eat, man. If you're sitting around, you got more time now, take this prep time. Make yourself some tasty food and get it done. You also have some other specials going right now down at the store. I know you've got a free $50 accessory package going on grills that are $749 and up. If you buy a charcoal grill, you're getting a free box of charcoal with it to get you rocking and rolling. And you have to explain these to me. A ceramic beer chicken sitter, do we cook in that? What is that? It's
basically a round cone that comes up, and then there's a tube. I don't have one here, I should. But the chicken sitter, you can put beer, whatever liquid, the cherry syrup, whatever flavor, root beer works good. And then you plant the chicken, term sitter, you're setting him on top of it, and that holds the chicken upright. Put that back into your smoker, and what you're doing is you're steaming from the inside out. So you're smoke roasting, but you're steam roasting from the inside. Cut your cook time by almost a third, and unbelievable juicy, tender flavor. It's the way to cook chicken.
That's awesome. Those are only $9.99. You've also got 20% off all your in-stock barbecue island accessories. You guys got a lot of stuff going on. People are doing projects around the house. This is a great deal. If you have the stuff in stock, 20% off if you're doing a big thing outside, an outdoor grill, and all those things, which is great. And 2 for 1, or buy 2 get 1 free on Bloody Mary, lemon drop, and margarita mixes. So everything is happening at Smoke and Fire, 151st and 69 Highway. You can call them up at 913-685-1111. You can find them online at fire.com. And, of course, check these videos out like we've got them here on our Facebook and YouTube page. Jim, can't thank you enough. We're excited you guys are open and people can come check this stuff out. Thanks so much for your time.
Good to talk. We'll see you soon.